Now that we have our first visual adaptation of the Sassel knife, can we use the knife to cut a hole to a parallel universe where a movie adaptation of the Sassel knife exists? His Dark Material Season 2 is the second season in the BBC TV adaptation. His Dark Material Season 2 is the second season in the BBC and HBO Max adaptation of Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials book trilogy, and based on the second book in the trilogy, The Sassel Knife, and originally debuted on TV in the UK and US from uh, November to December 2020, the worst year of the COVID pandemic, as we all know. So his Dark Materials season 2 tells the story picking up right where season 1 left off. Lyra is still grieving for her recently murdered friend Roger, who was killed by her own father, Lord Asriel, as he opened a portal to uh, other worlds. And Lyra meets Will, a boy her her and his fates are intertwined, and they both stepped into the realm of Chisagazzi, a city that's inhabited only by kids, and soul-eating spectres haunt its streets. And Mrs. Coulter still determined to find her daughter no matter what it takes. And the witches are going to war with the Magisterium. And Scoresby is searching for Will's long lost father, uh, and Will himself becomes the bearer of the Sassel knife, the only weapon that can defeat the authority. The Sassel knife does seem to be the fan favourite of the His Dark Materials book trilogy. It seems to be the most popular one, though it's not my personal favourite. That would be the Amber Spyglass. But I can see why season 2 of this show would be the most anticipated for the fan base if it was adapting the most popular book. And sure, it was 3 years ago since my review of season 1 of His Dark Materials, but now that season 3 has been completed and everybody's had a chance to check out the entire show, now is the perfect opportunity for me to share my thoughts on the final 2 seasons. And season 1 was a tremendous, pleasant surprise to me. I mean, I went into that season having no idea what to expect, and was wishing for a Subtle Knife and Amber Spyglass movie instead of this show. But I gotta say, on reflection, the His Dark Materials TV show is a stronger and more faithful adaptation to Philip Pullman's work that's completely and utterly respects its source material. And as for season 2, it released only a year after season 1 and was filmed at the very beginning of 2020 before the pandemic struck. But you can tell that the COVID pandemic undoubtedly defined this season, as it is the shortest of the 3 seasons. That should come to no surprise, as the Sassel Knife book is the shortest in its trilogy. But even so, they were initially going to film a Lord Asriel episode for this season, but COVID restraints prevented them, and they never had time to do it. And overall, season 2 is a satisfactory middle season in this show, but it is my least favorite of the 3, and a definite step down from season 1, just in my personal opinion. Oh, and before we go any further with this review, special shout out to Hobby Bricks. He has recently reviewed the third season of this show. Check out his review because his review is a masterpiece. Season 2 of this show does make changes from the book that I thought worked, but other changes I did disagree with, and the changes that I felt worked were a scene between Mrs. Coulter and Scoresby, which never happened in the book. But I felt like it should have, as both Mrs. Coulter and Scoresby care about Lyra deeply. And since Scoresby has spent so much time with her daughter, of course Coulter would want to interrogate this man. And going into my pros for season 2 first, I love that this season, just like the Book of the Subtle Knife, takes us out of Lyra's parallel world and we get to explore a brand new world of Chisagatsi as well as everyday Oxford. And Chisagatsi does look epic in scope by TV standards, and this show as a whole is pretty glamorous as a TV fantasy series, despite not feeling quite as big in scale as something like Game of Thrones. And also, the spectres, were were done splendidly. I always envisioned them as like the Dementors from Harry Potter, and I was not disappointed when I saw their design. And Mrs. Coulter, even in the penultimate episodes, gets to control the spectres of her own will, which goes to show just complex a character she is. And Rutha Wilson, I've got to say, gives the greatest performance of this entire season as Mrs. Coulter. Yes, Lyra and Will are the leads carrying the story, but every time Mrs. Coulter is in a scene, I mean, your attention is fully on her. When she is confronts Lyra in Lord Barrel's office when she and Will are retrieving the alethiometer that he stole, and while Will is taking on Lord Baron, Lyra is confronting her mother, and she's using her demon pan to pin down Mrs. Coulter's monkey demon, which, parallels the moment in season 1 when Lyra was in Mrs. Coulter's house and Mrs. Coulter's demon was attacking Pam. Also, this season brings in one of my favorite characters in the His Dark Materials trilogy, Mary Malone. She will become even more significant in the Amber Spyglass. For those of you who have read the source material know that. She ultimately becomes Lyra and Will's best friend, even if it's only Lyra that has scenes with her in this season and and her uh, fascination with dust and talking to angels makes you want to find out all the more about her because you're like, okay, this lady knows the answers, and and I've got to say, the Tower of Angels episode 4, may be the best of this season, with its Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring opening like prologue with the backstory of how the subtle knife was forged and Will getting the subtle knife in the tower and losing 2 of his fingers. It is hardcore stuff, uh, and Lee Scoresby's death, I've got to say, was powerfully done. He gave his life to get Will's father to his son, and you can see that season 2 is already taking the story in a darker direction since where the story began, as we're losing more and more characters. Oh, and the war with the witches and the magisterium was thrilling to see. like when Mrs. Coulter is interrogating and torturing that witch, or ripping out the feathers from her back. That is just horrible. And the uh, witch is getting the Magisterium back for bombing their homes. I mean, it is decently done action uh, by TV standards once again. I mean, it could have looked even more impressive if it was in a movie, but it's still gripping. Oh, and the uh, kick-ass theme song to this show that gives me goosebumps every single time. The da 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 da. Whether I like his Dark Materials episode or not, I will always watch one for that intro alone. Though here's where we get to where season two did things differently from the book that I didn't approve of. That, in my opinion, made the story weaker. Like Yorick is not in the Subtle Knife book at all, yet he only appears occasionally in this season, but he serves no purpose to the narrative of this season and does nothing. He won't become more important again until season three. We get to see Will's grandparents while Lyra and Will are exploring Oxford, which I thought was an unnecessary addition. Like, what do Will's grandparents do to advance the narrative? Nothing. Yes, the Subtle Knife is more Will's story in the books, whereas the Northern Lights was more Lyra's story. But you could have had, well, Will's scenes with his mother and Will, stepping through the time window into Chittagapsy, be in the pilot episode of this season, the City of Magpies, instead of including it in season one, which felt odd to me. And and also the finale of season two, I'm going to be perfectly and brutally honest, is a anticlimax and a disappointment. Probably my least favorite His Dark Materials episode in general. If you know the book, major spoilers for how Will's father's death plays out in the books. Will's father is killed by a witch who he once had an affair with but left to be with Will's mother. Whereas the show changes this and has Will's father just be killed off by a random Magisterium soldier. I'm sorry, what the fuck? There was no need to change that whatsoever. Like, having Will's father be killed by the witch who he once knew was so much more powerful and personal, and they just took away what could have been an extremely emotional moment for Will and his father, because it's Will's father's death that's inspires Will to deliver the knife to Lord Asriel in season three. So Will's father's death here felt like they ruined it, and Asriel's speech at the end felt like it was tacked on at the last minute when Asriel sees the angels appear before him, stating he's going to go to war with the authority. It feels like it was a scene that was supposed to be in the Lord Asriel based episode, but of course they were never able to do that episode, which does suck. Had the COVID pandemic not have happened, maybe that episode would have existed. Overall, season two does have its high points, and it's wonderful to see a visual adaptation of the Subtle Knife after countless years of waiting for one. It just feels let down by a underwhelming finale and some unnecessary changes from the book. I give His Dark Materials season 2 3 stars out of 5. Good season. So yeah, I mean, it's maybe my least favorite season, but still good, which goes to show, well, how consistent this show did stay. And it would only go up from here in the following season. Well, I love you guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. What are your thoughts on His Dark Materials season 2? Is this your favourite or least favourite season, or neither? Please comment and let me know. Please like this video and subscribe. Please follow on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you next time when I review His Dark Materials Season 3, the third and final season. I mean, boy, am I stoked to share my complex thoughts on that epic conclusion to this show. And I will also be doing another TV review soon, my review of The Last of Us show season 1, which will conclude next week. And remember, movies are us. Bye, guys.